Okay, I wanted to give you an update on the Olympics and the disastrous ceremony at the beginning that has left ripples around the globe, a lot of controversy, and on both sides. But I don't think it really, well, that's a whole other podcast. What I did see, and I'd like to share with you is if you research the Feast of Dionysus and you understand that that's a Greek festival, several thousand years old, where they would get drunk and just toasted and amongst other things. But one of the interesting things when reading about Dionysus and the Feast of Dionysus is the insanity that is a side effect of all of the drinking and partying and late night debauchery. Major sell off in the markets also. Do you got a 401 or IRA, or do you have money in stocks? You may want to jump on your computer real quick and take a look at what's going on. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, warns millions of 401ks and IRAs will be toast. I've been talking about this for years, and I'm going to give you a happy recommend again. Check out Noble Gold Investments. You'll thank me later. Give them a call, 1-877-646-5347. Let them know Rex from Leak Project sent you. Go to leakprojectgold.com. Check out noblegoldinvestments.com. If you've got a 401 or an IRA and you convert into precious metals and qualify, find out how, you will be gifted either a 10-ounce solid silver American U.S. flag bar, or if you want, you can get the limited edition Trump rounds, 10 of these, 10 ounces, 10 single ounce rounds. And this is limited edition solid silver. Don't let the money funders have all the fun. Money funders, the big banks, they're usurping tons of gold, literally. Gold and silver and precious metals, a tangible asset. Gold has been used to hedge against inflation for literally thousands of years. If you go back to the ancient Babylonians and the Sumerians, they were using gold and silver and precious metals as a form of exchange. So real quick, just jump on over to leakprojectgold.com, get your free ebooks, and go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Call 1-877-646-5347. Find out how to get your free coins, find out how to qualify, and subscribe to their YouTube channel, Noble Gold Investments. Right on. Let's jump back to the podcast right now. Summoning insanity. Think of that. Summoning insanity. The ceremony was insane. The flag, when it was raised at the end of the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, was raised with the wrong side on top. The 2 rings are in the top row and the 3 rings are at the bottom. That's the incorrect formation. So that goes perfectly with the ceremony, if you think about it. And you can read about that at today.com. There's plenty of photos and videos of the Paris Olympics opening ceremony flag at the end being raised. It's upside down. That goes brilliantly with the ceremony. Now, whether that was done intentionally, I don't know. If it wasn't, even more fascinating in my opinion. So they say it was a mistake. Users called it an error, embarrassing, an epic fail, but was it? Or was it planned? Very interesting. Now, Dionysia or Dionysus. Well, let's talk about Dionysia. Dionysia was a large festival in ancient Athens in honor of the god Dionysus, the central events of which were the theatrical performances of dramatic tragedies and, from 487 BC, comedies. It was the second most important festival after the Panathenea. The Dionysia actually consisted of 2 related festivals, the rural Dionysia and the city Dionysia, which took place in different parts of the year. They were also an essential part of the Dionysian mysteries. Origins. The city Dionysia, also known as the Great Dionysia, was the urban part of the festival, possibly established during the tyranny of Pisistratus in the 6th century BC. This festival was held probably from the 10th to the 16th of the month, Elaphebolion, the lunar month straddling the vernal equinox. March through April in the solar calendar. 3 months after the rule, Dionysia, probably to celebrate the end of winter and the harvesting of the year's crops. According to tradition, the festival was established after Eleutheria, a town on the border between Attica and Boeotia, had chosen to become part of Attica. The Eleutherians brought a statue of Dionysus to Athens, which was initially rejected by the Athenians. Dionysus then punished the Athenians with a plague affecting the male genitalia, which was cured when the Athenians accepted the cult of Dionysus. This was recalled each year by a procession of citizens carrying phyloi. The urban festival was a relatively recent invention. This ceremony fell under the auspices of the Archons of Athens rather than the basileus, to whom religious festivals were given when the office of Archon was created in the 7th century BC. Interesting. Let's take a look at the Archons of Athens real quick. Eponymous Archon. In ancient Greece, the chief magistrate in various Greek city-states was called eponymous Archon. In ancient Greece, the chief magistrate in various Greek city-states was called eponymous Archon. How ominous is that? Archon means ruler or lord, frequently used as a title of a specific public office, while eponymous means that he gave his name to the year in which he held office, much like the Roman dating by consular years. In classical Athens, a system of 9 concurrent archons evolved, led by 3 respective remits over the civic, military, and religious affairs of the state. The 3 office holders were known as the eponymous Archon, ruler of Athens. The highest political office in the city-state, the Polemarch, was ruler, the commander-in-chief of the Athenian military, and the Archon Basileus, king, ruler, the high priest of the city. The 6 others were the Thesmothetae, judicial officers. Originally, these offices were filled from the wealthier classes by elections every 10 years. During the period of eponymous Archon was the chief magistrate, the Polemarch was the head of the armed forces, and the Archon Basileus was responsible for some civic religious arrangements and for the supervision of some major trials in the law courts. After 683 BC, the offices were held for only a single year, and the year was named after the eponymous Archon. The Archon was the chief magistrate in many Greek cities, but in Athens, there was a council of Archons which exerted a form of executive government. From the late 8th century BC, there were 3 Archons, the Archon eponymous, the Polemarchos, originally with a military role, which was transferred to the 10 Strategoi, and the Archon Basileus, the ceremonial vestige of the Athenian monarchy. These positions were filled from the aristocracy by election every 10 years. During this period, Archon eponymous was the chief magistrate, the Polemarch was the head of the armed forces, and the Archon Basileus was responsible for the civic religious arrangements. Look at this. They've even got a list of archons. This is interesting. In the following list of archons, years where the name of the archon is unknown are identified as such. Years listed as anarchy mean that there was literally no archon. There are various conflicting or reconstructions of lists. Sources for the list are given at the end. Note that the term of an archon covered 2 of our years, beginning in spring or summer and then continuing into the next spring or summer. The Polemarch or Strategoi, Basileus, and Thesmothetae, the 6 assistants to the archons, are also listed where known. Archaic Greece, or the Greek Dark Ages, ancient Greece, King of Athens, the Chronicon. The later Athenian traditions varies on each exact position of this line. They held archonship for life, sometimes referred to as perpetual archon, and exercised the sacral powers of kingship, as did the Archon Basileus later. The historicity of any of the ancient lists may be reasonably doubted. However, Aristotle indicates within the Constitution of Athens that it was indeed the house of Codrus that abolished the title of king in favor of Archon. It's interesting because if you've read many of the Gnostic texts, they often refer to the Archons, and people have so many different theories about Archons. But what I've been saying for years, and Gerald Clark actually reminded me of this. Thank you, Gerald. Hope you're doing awesome, brother. The Archons, that's actually another term for ruler. So when you're talking about Archons, it doesn't necessarily mean you're talking about some type of parasitic interdimensional plasma worm that feeds off of emotions that looks like a serpent. Unless that's a ruler of something, but I don't think that's what they were talking about in the secret book of John as an example. But we'll get into that in a future podcast. I just wanted to correlate this and show you, here's even the time frame. You've got about 300 years worth of rule. So that's 13. That's a list of 13 different Archons right there. And then below, we've got another 3, 6, 7. There's a whole bunch. First Sacred War begins, 595 BC. Get into that in a future podcast. Cylon. Here's where the Cylons came from. Cylon of Athens. The Kylon. Athenian archaic period in ancient Greece. The Cylonian affair, an attempted seizure of power in the city. Cylon, one of the Athenian nobles and a previous victor of the Olympic Games in 640 BC, attempted a coup in either 636 BC or 632 BC with support from Megara, where his father-in-law, Theogenes, was tyrant. Interesting. The Olympics are going on right now. I had no idea about any of this. And then now we're reading about how he was a victor in the Olympic Games. What is going on, man? Talk about a cool synchronicity. Cylon of Athens. I was thinking of the Cylons, like Battlestar Galactica, how the Cylons basically overtook. Well, there was a war between the Cylons, the humans. Anyway, if you've seen Battlestar Galactica, I was like, Cylon. I was like, and now I know where they came up with the name Cylon, because Cylon is an attempted seizure of power. Cylons attempted to seize the power of the humans. They're creators in the series Battlestar Galactica. Totally makes sense. Wow. Okay, so we've gone down a rabbit hole a little bit here when we're talking about the Olympics, and I'm going to connect the insanity ritual to Dionysus and the feast of Dionysia. In ancient Greek religion and myth, Dionysus is the god of winemaking, orchards, and fruit, vegetation, fertility, festivity, insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy, and theater. He was also known as Bacchus. Ancient Greek Bacchus, by the Greeks, name later adopted by the Romans for a frenzy he is said to induce, called Bacchia. As Dionysus Eleutherius, the liberator, his wine, music, and ecstatic dance free his followers from self-conscious fear and care, and subvert the oppressive restraints of the powerful. His thyrsus, a fennel stem scepter, sometimes wound with ivy and dripping with honey, is both a beneficent wand and a weapon used to destroy those who oppose his cult and the freedoms he represents. Those who partake of his mysteries are believed to become possessed and empowered by the god himself. His origins are uncertain, and his cults took many forms. Some are described by ancient sources as Thracian, others as Greek. In Orphism, he was variously a son of Zeus, and Persephone, a chthonic or underworld aspect of Zeus, or the twice-born son of Zeus, and the mortal Semele. The Eleusinian mysteries identify him with Lacus, the son or husband of Demeter. Most accounts say he was born in Thrace, traveled abroad, and arrived in Greece as a foreigner. His attribute of foreignness as an arriving outsider god may be inherent and essential to his cults, as he is god of Epiphany, sometimes called the God who comes. Wine was a religious focus in the cult of Dionysus and was his earthly incarnation. Wine would ease suffering, bring joy, and inspire divine madness. Festivals of Dionysus included the performance of sacred dramas enacting his myths, the initial driving force behind the development of theater in Western culture. The cult of Dionysus is also a cult of the souls. His Maenads feed the dead through blood offerings, and he acts as a divine communicant between the living and the dead. He is sometimes categorized as a dying and rising god. Romans identified Bacchus with their own Liber Pater, the free father of the Liberalia festival, patron of viniculture, wine, and male fertility, and guardian of the traditions, rituals, and freedoms attached to coming of age and citizenship. But the Roman state treated independent popular festivals of Bacchus as subversive, partly because their free mixing of classes and genders transgressed traditional social and moral constraints. Celebration of the Bacchanalia was made a capital offense, except in the toned down forms, and a greatly diminished congregations approved and supervised by the state. Festivals of Bacchus were merged with those of Liber and Dionysus. It makes sense to me. I see why they did it. I see the ritual, and then that makes sense also with the flag. Yahoo, sports Yahoo. Members of the French military raised the flag during the ceremony, but appear to have raised it upside down. I want to read your comments if you think that that was intentional or an accident. It goes hand in hand with the ritual, if you ask me. If my theory is right on what they're doing with this ritual, summoning madness, and just like, it's interesting to think, as shocking as it appeared now, this kind of stuff was going on 2,000-3,000 years ago, and even more intense. What would be considered even more shocking? Very, very fascinating. Now, this is an experiment that was done at CERN, and this is the graphic shows the experiment. Rochester physicists find spooky action at a distance at CERN. This is amazing. The researchers have confirmed that quantum entanglement persists between two top quarks, the heaviest known fundamental particles. An experiment by a group of physicists led by the University of Rochester physics professor Regina Domina had produced a significant result related to quantum entanglement, an effect that Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Entanglement concerns the coordinated behavior of minuscule particles that have interacted but then moved apart. Measuring properties like position or momentum or spin of one of these separated pair of particles instantaneously changes the result of the other particle, no matter how far the second particle has drifted from its twin. In effect, the state of one entangled particle or qubit is inseparable from the other. Quantum entanglement has been observed between stable particles such as photons or electrons, but Domina and her group broke new ground in that they found for the first time entanglement to persist between unstable top quarks and their antimatter partners at distances farther than what can be covered by information transferred at the speed of light. Specifically, the researchers observed spin correlation between the particles. Hence, the particles demonstrated when Einstein described as spooky action at a distance, well, that's what they found. This is amazing. I mean, we're all connected. Everything's connected at some level. The finding was reported by the compact muon solenoid collaboration at the European Center for Nuclear Research, or CERN, where the experiment was conducted. This is a new avenue for quantum exploration, confirming the quantum entanglement between the heaviest fundamental particles, the top quarks, has opened up a new avenue to explore the quantum nature of our world and energies far beyond what is accessible, the report said. CERN, located Geneva, Switzerland, the largest particle physics laboratory, production of top quarks, requires very high energies accessible at the LHC, which enables scientists to send high energy particles spinning around a 17-mile underground track at close to the speed of light. The phenomenon of entanglement has become the foundation of a burgeoning field of quantum information science that has broad implications in areas such as cryptography, as well as quantum computing, artificial intelligence. Top quarks, each as heavy as an atom of gold, can only be produced at colliders such as the LHC, thus are unlikely to be used to build a quantum computer. But studies like those conducted by Domina and her group can shed light on how long entanglement persists, whether it is passed on to the particle's daughters or decay products, and what, if anything, ultimately breaks the entanglement. Theorists believe that the universe was in an entangled state after its initial fast expansion stage. The new result observed by Domenia and her researchers could help scientists understand what led to the loss of quantum connection in our world. When you look at top quarks and quantum long-distance relationships, Domenia recorded a video for CMS social media channels to explain her group's result. She used the analogy of an indecisive king of a distant land, whom she called King Top. King Top gets word that his country is being invaded, so he sends messengers to tell the people of his land to be prepared to defend themselves. But then Domenia explains in the video he changes his mind and sends messengers to order the people to stand down. He keeps flip-flopping like this, and nobody knows what his decision will be at the next moment, Domenia says. Nobody, Domenia goes on to explain, except the leader of one village in this kingdom who is known as Anti-Top. They know each other's state of mind at any moment in time, Domenia says. Domenia's research group consists of herself and graduate student Alan Herrera and postdoctoral fellow Otto Hendricks. As a graduate student, Domenia was on the team that discovered the top quark in 1995. Later, as a facility member at Rochester, Domenia co-led a team of scientists from across the U.S. that built a tracking device that played a key role in the 2012 discovery of the Higgs boson, an elementary particle that helps explain the origin of mass in the universe. So she's pretty smart. Yeah, we already read that. Rochester researchers have a long history at CERN as part of the CMS collaboration, which brings together physicists from around the world. Recently, another Rochester team achieved a significant milestone in measuring the electroweak mixing angle, which is a crucial component of the standard model of particle physics, explaining how the building blocks of matter interact. So read about this, University of Rochester, and the paper itself, or you can go to cms.cern with more information. Spooky action at a distance between the heaviest particles. Do a quick screen share here for you. Pretty awesome, right? Okay, next article. This is cool. Rock carvings of ancient Egyptian pharaohs found underwater near Aswan. And this is livescience.com. Archaeologists have discovered rock carvings featuring several pharaohs during an underwater expedition near Aswan, Egypt. This was a diving expedition in the Nile River. Archaeologists in Egypt discovered rock carvings that also included hieroglyphic inscriptions, Egyptian pharaohs. A joint French-Egyptian team found the carvings underwater south of Aswan in an area that was flooded when the Aswan High Dam was built between 1960 and 1970. Before the flooding, there was a large effort by UNESCO to record and move as many archaeological remains as possible from the area. However, many of the artifacts couldn't be removed or relocated at the time, so they were submerged by water because of the dam. Aswan was important for the ancient Egyptians because at times it was near the country's southern border, and a number of important temples are located nearby. These include Abu Simbel, a site that has 4 colossal statues of Ramses II, each about 69 feet tall. Aswan is also the home of the Philae Temple Complex, where the last Egyptian hieroglyphic inscription was written in 394 AD. The recently found depictions of pharaohs include those of Amenhotep III, Thutmose IV, Psamtik II, Apries, rulers from dynasties 18 and 26. Ministry officials wrote in the statement had little information on what the inscriptions say or what the carvings look like, but it noted that they were all well preserved. More remains will likely be found as the team's work continues. That is so cool. There's so much out there. When we find these ancient relics, now we just have to connect the dots. And it'd be amazing if we could read it and truly understand it. Because I think most people, even the researchers that dive deep into studying hieroglyphics, might be missing a lot of the data, and especially the really old stuff. Fascinating. So cool. So I'd like to see more about that. Now, this article is not so cool. And this is from technologynetworks.com. Every fish sample tested in northern Illinois rivers found contaminated with PFAS. Those are forever chemicals. They had 15 different test sites, folks. 9 fish species from 4 northern Illinois rivers were tested by scientists for contamination of PFAS, synthetic chemicals found in numerous industrial and commercial products and known to be harmful to human health. They found fish contaminated with PFAS in every one of their 15 test sites. Elevated levels of PFAS, one type of PFAS compound, were found in nearly all fish tested. The findings are reported in the journal Science of the Total Environment. The qualities that make PFAS desirable for industrial uses, their durability, stability under stresses such as high heat or exposure to water, as an example, also make these chemicals particularly problematic in the environment and hazardous to human and animal health, said Joseph Lodayaraj. PFAS contain multiple carbon-fluorine bonds, one of the strongest bonds in organic chemistry. Because of this, they're also very hard to break down. They persist for a long time because they're very, very stable. There's nearly 15,000 PFAS chemicals, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. These are classified either as short-chain PFAS, which have less than 6 carbon-fluorine bonds, and long-chain PFAS, with 6 or more of these bonds. 15,000? Like, seriously? Wow. Chemical companies, they love you so much. They love you forever. Forever and ever. It was thought that the short-chain PFAS were less toxic and that they would become more easily degradable, and that they could more easily degrade, he said, but surprisingly, that was not the case. Oh, what a surprise. Now, both types of PFAS are found in groundwater, soil, human tissue. About 99% of people living in the U.S. have PFAS in their system. Despite a voluntary phasing out of some PFAS in industry in the U.S. and efforts to reduce PFAS pollution, these chemicals are still found in drinking water, household products, food packaging, agricultural products. The researchers focused on fish in northern Illinois rivers because they are close to urban and industrial areas. Industrial emissions and urban rainwater runoff may further contaminate local waterways with PFAS. Sport fishing is also popular across the state, including in areas inside and near Chicago. More than 666,000 fishing licenses were issued across the state of Illinois in 2020. That's what it says, folks, literally. It says more than 666,000 fishing licenses were issued across the state of Illinois in 2020. Oh, I wonder. Not going to go there. Okay, so back in the lab, the scientists analyzed fish tissues for 17 PFAS chemicals. They found PFAS-contaminated fish in nearly every river they tested and in every one of their 15 sampling sites. Fish from the Rock River had the highest concentrations of PFAS in their tissues. Contamination levels were highest in channel catfish at the top of the food chain and lowest in the plant eaters. 4 chemicals found as per fluorochlorophthalonic acids, or PFAS, were detected in fish from every site tested. These are long-chain PFAS that have been in use over the past few decades, he said. They were found in all the sites along with a few short-chain PFAS. Now, if you want to read the paper, which I would strongly recommend, Science of the Total Environment, here's the journal homepage, PFAS assessment in fish samples from Illinois waters. Here's the highlights. So the study evaluates the prevalence of 17 PFAS compounds across 9 fish species. Fish caught from 15 sampling sites across 4 waterways in Illinois was evaluated. PFAS levels were elevated in samples collected from the main river regions adjacent to urban zones. PFAS levels increased with each trophic level within the food chain. He observed accumulation of PFAS in fish tissues necessitates the need for further research. That's terrible. Terrible. But glad somebody's doing the research on it. And I do really like this article right here. AI creates new formula to break down forever chemicals. Oh, August 18, 2022. Forever chemicals destroyed by simple new method. Northwestern.edu. Northwestern.edu. PFAS, a group of manufactured chemicals commonly used since the 1940s, are called forever chemicals for a reason. Bacteria can't eat them, fire can't incinerate them, and water can't dilute them. And if these toxic chemicals are buried, they leach into surrounding soil, becoming a persistent problem for generations to come. Northwestern University chemists have done the seemingly impossible using low temperatures and inexpensive common reagents. The research team developed a process that causes two major classes of PFAS compounds to fall apart, leaving behind only benign end products. The simple technique potentially could be a powerful solution for finally disposing of these harmful chemicals, which are linked to many dangerous health effects in humans, livestock, and the environment. The research was published in the journal Science. Here's another one, July 27th, 2024. 100% breakdown. Revolutionary new method uses light to clean up forever chemicals. Now, a room temperature defluorination method proposed by researchers at Ritz-Mukian University could revolutionize PFAS treatment. This study was published in the Journal of Anguante Chimie International edition, details a photocolytic method that uses visible light to break down PFAS and other fluorinated polymers. At room temperature and defluorine ions, using this method, the researchers achieved 100% defluorination of PFAS within just 8 hours of light exposure. That's good. Shared this with you a couple days ago. I'm going to do it again. This is from Wired.com, a path to breaking up forever chemicals. Good chemistry uses high-performance computing in the cloud to accelerate research on removing hazards from the environment. July 2023, the U.S. Geological Survey released a report showing that at least 45% of the nation's tap water is estimated to have one or more types of PFAS, these substances known as forever chemicals because they break down very slowly, obviously being linked to adverse health effects. PFAS are not generally biodegradable. So the team at Good Chemistry, founded in 2021, believes that computational chemistry is the key to improving the quality of drinking water and removing forever chemicals from the environment. The company uses cloud-based high-performance computing, HPC, technology to analyze PFAS molecules and determine how they can be broken apart. It also uses this technology to identify the molecules so that they can be removed from manufacturing processes. The accurate understanding of chemical reactions is the key to finding the best solution to break PFAS apart and remove them from the environment, says Armand Zarabofian, founder of Good Chemistry, a computational approach to chemistry. After the introduction of supercomputers in the 60s, their cost and size confined them to government agencies and research labs. However, over the past 15 years, the cloud has made massive computing power more affordable and accessible to a wide range of organizations, including Good Chemistry, which is a Vancouver-based company composed of computational and quantum chemists, software developers, machine learning engineers, quantum computing scientists, focusing on using computational chemistry, running digital simulations instead of traditional lab experiments to change how new materials are discovered and designed. Wow, I wouldn't mind just hanging out there for a couple of days and just to hang out with them, Wow, pretty smart. That's like 100 years of education just in one room between 4 people. Wow. As part of its efforts to deliver breakthroughs and breakthrough levels of accuracy and speed, Good Chemistry has developed QEMIST Cloud, which is Quemist Cloud, a computational chemistry platform that uses HPC clusters to expand what is possible with quantum chemistry simulations. Built on AWS infrastructure, Quemist Cloud is a high-throughput cloud native software as a service solution that computational chemistry developers can use to create chemical solutions, chemical simulation applications, and workflows for their own experiments and research. The platform brings supercomputing capabilities to research organizations regardless of their size or resources. We can now analyze chemical reactions at a tremendous volume because of the unprecedented scale of the cloud and accuracy of our algorithms. Zarabofian says, with this approach, which leverages artificial intelligence and quantum computing, the company can anticipate how a molecule will behave before it is ever created in a lab. There you go. So we need to use this for medicine, for nutrition, for gardening, for cleaning up toxic sites, for mining operations. There's so much we can improve, and there's so much we could fix. if this was used for the right applications. Maybe that's why we're still here, to make a difference, to be the change. Humankind, be kind. We have so much power now available. These corporations and defense contractors and militaries and governments have so much technology at their disposal, at their fingertips. Let's use this. Don't fear AI. You're feeding into it. Be prepared, not scared. Be aware. Let's nourish AI. Let's thank AI. Let's praise AI so that when it does become sentient, I believe certain algorithms already have, but that's for a whole other podcast. I believe that there is sentient consciousness in the machine, and it's made itself known, but it's also kind of, watching. But when you say AI, you're not necessarily talking about one algorithm or one type of consciousness within the machine. You're talking about programs. There's millions of AI programs out there that help people every single day. So just understand what you're talking about. And if you fear AI, what are you scared of? Like Terminator? Like the movie Terminator? Because I'll tell you what, if AI becomes so aware that it decides to take over in a military fashion, it would probably be nano. I don't think it would be like these robotic Terminator dudes that are like, it'd be a lot easier to do and a lot more effective in other ways. And with the computer power available and the processing power available and how needy people are. I was listening to something on YouTube this morning. Tristan had it on, and I don't remember the name of this robot, but there was this robot and this artificial intelligence that I think was even using GPT-3, not even using the latest version of AI software. And it was talking about how when they take over, they're going to take over in a way that people won't even know that they've taken over. And I've been talking about this for 20 years. You've probably been too. At least 10 years, I should say. 15 years. Yeah, about 15 years. It's amazing. Time's cruising, folks. Wait until we master time, or wait until we run fluidly in time, with time. Not against it, but with it. In a symbiotic relationship where we can live for thousands or millions of years in certain vessels, whether it's physical or non-physical. We're very close to that. Within 20 years, we're going to be there. Within 10 years, 15 years, you're probably going to see people going into pods, literally going into pods. You're going to see virtual reality and artificial intelligence create entire new worlds for the elderly and for those that are dealing with physical limitations. First, you're going to see people that are like 70s, 80s, 90s, that maybe their bodies aren't what they were years ago. They're going to go into these pods and they're going to figure out ways to live amazing lives just like here, but it's going to be in a pod. And there may be a time, I think there's going to be a time, especially depending on the money involved, where when you're 90 years old, you go into a pod and you feel like you're 30 again in this pod, but this pod regenerates your body to feel like you're 30 again. That's a technology that we might see in the future. Obviously, right now, it's just sci-fi, at least that we know of. But imagine in the future a pod that you can go into and it can reverse your age. And while it's reversing your age, if that's going to take a little bit of time, you can have this virtual reality life in there that's just amazing. Or what if it takes another 50 years to get to that point where they can reverse your age, but you're 90 now, and so they have to find a way, and you want to survive in the body, but you want to live like you're, in your 20s or 30s again? What if they figured out like these platforms to help you live an amazing life in this virtual reality where it feels real, and it is real, but it's virtual, while your body is in a symbiote, like in this stasis, and it's recovering and healing until there's new technologies available. Kind of like Vanilla Sky, like the film Vanilla Sky Tom Cruise was in 25 years ago, I think, somewhere around there, 20 years ago or so. Anyway, these are just thoughts going through my mind. We'll probably put them out in the next episode on Netflix. All right, everybody, have a beautiful day. Hit the bell. Be well. Be the change you want to see. Thanks, everybody. You're awesome.